Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Om. Salutations to Bhagavan Ramakrishna. Today we start new series on Bhavanath Chattopadhyay. It's a fascinating life. He reached a very crest of spirituality. And then there's a huge dip. Of course, seen externally, we don't know how things were transforming for himself inside. And so it's an eye opener for us too, that ultimately God is in charge of our karma. Bhavanath. Nath is Lord. Bhava is to be, the Lord of creation. Generally it's applied to, used for Shiva. Bhutanath, Bhavanath. Okay. Chattopadhyay. And Sri Ramakrishna's surname also was Chattopadhyay. These were the Upadhyayas, the teachers that they had come out here. So we have, apart from his life, he was responsible for one thing, and that the world will always be grateful for him. It is a one picture, because of his efforts, of God. The only picture. Yes, this picture was due to Bhavanath. Mother says, nowadays humans are very clever. They've even photographed God. This is one of the most profound, magical, spiritual pictures that the world will ever see. It has the universe within it. We'll relate the incident behind this. Most devotees have spent hours and hours gazing at the picture or meditating on this picture. It has become central to many lives. It is the goal. It is the way also, the means. One time, Bhavanath was desirous of having Sri Ramakrishna photographed, and in those days it was very difficult. Nowadays we have our cameras, we carry our cameras all around. In those days it wasn't so. There was a huge contraption, and the silver nitrate was put on that glass negative, and there was had to be an exposure where the photographer used to cover the whole camera except the lens along with himself, and then click. Bhavanath had hired a photographer from Varanagar. That's a place where he was staying. Varanagar is about 3 or 4 miles from Dakshineshwar, very close by. And The photographer was Avinash Chandrada. So on that appointed time, Bhavanath bought the photographer with the equipment, and Sri Ramakrishna wasn't interested with all, like what he was. It depended on his moods. He walked across the courtyard, temple courtyard, to the temple of Radha and Krishna on the northern side. Like if you stand on the courtyard there, on the northern side, he said. And nobody could argue with him. In the meantime, Swami Vivekananda comes. And he inquires, what happened? The whole thing was related to him. In just a moment. He goes where Sri Ramakrishna was sitting, and he starts a spiritual conversation. And Sri Ramakrishna goes into his usual samadhi. And quickly he told Bhavanath and the photographer, get your camera ready. So they got the camera ready and everything was ready. But in those days, these photographers, they were also artists in a way. So Sri Ramakrishna's chin was slightly bent, right? So the Avinash goes to just correct his posture. And he pushes against the chin just to try to straighten it. And Sri Ramakrishna's whole body, it floated. It was as light as a piece of paper, the books say. And Swamiji yelled, don't touch him in that state. When he is in this state of samadhi. The body floated down, back again. And the picture was taken. After a few days, Bhavanath comes with a print, shows it to him. And Sri Ramakrishna was extremely pleased looking at him. Who is not pleased looking at us? But there are times when we don't like our own pictures. So he says, he doesn't talk about himself. This is a very high state of yoga. And this picture will be worshipped in every home as time goes by. Here it is. It's coming true. This picture will spread. Wherever there is sincere devotion, Sri Ramakrishna will come to them. This picture goes to you. Oh yes. And it takes over everything. Mother says, like the body and its shadow, this picture represents the shadow of Sri Ramakrishna's reality. So this was Bhavanath's contributions to the world. And this has been an amazing contribution. Like when you see a flower, what do you see? It's a flower. It's a beautiful flower. And especially now it's springtime, you get all flowers all over the place. But nobody understands that this flower is but the result of the sun and the water and the air and the earth. All the 5 elements, universal elements, as it were, have gone to produce this flower. The entire creation, as it were, is responsible for that flower. It represents creation in the world. So Sri Ramakrishna's picture, in a way, represents the entire gamut of spiritual experiences that have been recorded, that have not been recorded in the past, present, and the future. You'll see all these things within that picture. That's why I said it's one of the most profound pictures. Too deep to be just looked at and dismissed. Bhavanath, let's come to his life. He was the son of Ramdas Chattopadhyay and Ichamai Devi, mother of Ichamai. He was born somewhere 1863, same time as Swamiji, in Baranagar. It's pronounced Baranagar, but it's Varahanagar. Varaha is one of the incarnations, the city of that incarnation. So he had one sibling, that is a sister, and her name was Kshirodbala. Bhavanath, when he was young, he was extremely good looking, fair, and most importantly, he was very guileless, as I say, simple, gentle, and of a devout nature. Tremendous bhakti. We don't know much about his education, but later we do find him working as a teacher. So it's probably that he had a good education. I mean, good education as much as it was possible in those days. At the end of the last quarter of the 19th century, because of the influx of, you can say, Western ideas, sweeping the capital that was of India, British India, Calcutta, there was, of course, there was always going to be a pushback, and there's a pushback by orthodoxy, saying, hey, you're just pushing back here inside. Because what happens, it's not only ideas. I mean, the Christian missionaries were taking advantage of the idea of superiority of Western institutions, and they were converting en masse young people. So there was a gentleman who was Shashipada Bandyopadhyay, another. So he was also a member of the Brahmo Samaj, and he had started some organization, and it was engaged in philanthropic activities. So in 1872, this organization was, it was the Students' Club, and they carried out various social programs: public education, women's education, education for laborers, night school, Sunday school, moral training, public library, and so on. So this was the way that, instead of confronting directly the theological debates, which of course it will just be one-sided, because Vedanta has a huge theology. It's so huge, it's like a monster. It will take any theology like straw. So, but then people were attracted by the monetary value of these ideas. So what he did was also these schemes to stop the young men from getting converted. He also started for the young men of the locality, Atmaunnati Vidhayini Sabha. It's a group of self-culture, as they say. Yeah, self-improvement of its members. And there was a library and there was a hall where young men could come and discuss issues of the day, philosophy, etc. Bhavanath was given the job of running the library, the librarian. It was here he met the future Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath. So he used to come and debate with the members, the local members. He used to come all the way from Calcutta because he had a couple of friends who lived in Baranagar. And they both became very good friends. Bhavanath also, later, he joined the Brahmo Samaj, which Swami Vivekananda also was a member. And so their kind of connections deepened. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna used to look at them, they are a pair, always together. And they were really good friends. So, it was here that he had heard about Sri Ramakrishna, Bhavanath had heard about Sri Ramakrishna, either from Keshav Chandra Sen lectures or his articles written on Sri Ramakrishna, or from Sashipada Bandyopadhyay, you can say, the initiator of these activities, because he himself was devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. So, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna mentions Sri Ramakrishna either in late 1881 or 1882. Bhavanath had come to Dakshineshwar. There's a whole chapter in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna's visit to Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, he was one of the giants. He was a social reformer, he was a great scholar, and he did innumerable things. He was the principal of the Sanskrit college, etc. And he was one of the leaders of society, in the sense, not politically, of course, but people used to respect him. So Sri Ramakrishna had evinced interest in going to see Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. And there's a whole chapter which M was present and he recorded that conversation. Bhavanath also was there present because Sri Ramakrishna had come from Dakshineshwar with Bhavanath, M, the recorder of the Gospel, and the funny Hazra, which we have seen in the last couple of classes. Hazra was the comedian, the essential trickster there in Dakshineshwar. So he had come out. That proves first that Sri Ramakrishna was already close to Bhavanath, because Sri Ramakrishna used to be careful whom he moved around. And Sri Ramakrishna speaks about Bhavanath. Boys like Narendra, that is the future Vivekananda, Bhavanath, and Rakal, the future Swami Brahmananda, are my very intimate disciples. They are not to be thought of lightly. Then again he says, devotees like Rakal, Narendra and Bhavanath may be called Nitya Siddhas. Now this is shocking. These are ever perfect souls. Nitya Siddhas. Nitya is eternally perfect. Saying their spiritual consciousness has been awakened since their very birth. This gives us a glimpse of Bhavanath. He was a perfected, you can say, a perfected being. Perfected in what? In yoga and meditation and all that. And their spiritual consciousness is awakened since their very birth. Many times we see children 2 or 3 or 4 years old also. Some consciousness is awakened in them, and they either become like musicians or chess masters or something. They say the morning shows the day. You will see it happens in the very beginning. If you are destined for greatness in the future, you will find these things in the very early stages of your life. So we have seen even a child playing a drum, and the way he has learnt it, it's not possible to have got it in this one life because it's only 2 or 3 years old. And when they play the drums, that child may be just a 3-year-old or 4-year-old. But when they play the drums, they appear like grown-up people. There's a kind of stature that comes in. So some of these, like here, Rakhal, Narendra and Bhavanath may be called Nitya Siddhas. Their spiritual consciousness has been awakened since their very birth. So there are some people who go towards spirituality, and it is seen at a very early age. And they say, they assume human bodies only to impart spiritual illumination to others. Here we are. So this becomes very important to understand. They come only for the spiritual unfoldment of others. Another Sri Ramakrishna's assessment of it. Narendra, Bhavanath, Rakhal and devotees like them belong to the group of Nitya Siddhas. Again, they are eternally free. Religious practice on their path is superfluous. So, we will have to go through a lot of spiritual practices and run here and there and all these things to get some spiritual experience. But in the case of Bhavanath and all, these people have become, as they're saying, religious practice on their part is superfluous. Bhavanath attended the master's celebration once in Dakshineshwar. That was in 1883. And the master told him, one cannot be spiritual as long as one has shame, hatred or fear. In his homely style, he used to say, Lajja, Grina, Bhoy. So Bhavanath had come with his friend, Kali Krishna. And he used to sing also very well, Bhavanath. And as Bhavanath was singing, Sri Ramakrishna's mind soared into far-off realm. As it was, the occasion was Sri Ramakrishna's birthday, and they had all gathered there. He says, at the end of celebration, he tells Bhavanath, don't go today after everything. The very sight of you inspires me. So, Sri Ramakrishna used to say the same thing for Swami Vivekananda and all these things. And the same thing he said for Bhavanath. The very sight of you inspires me. So in the Gospel, Bhavanath, there's a comment. Bhavanath M says, he had not yet entered into worldly life, a youth about 20. He had a clear complexion and handsome features. He shed tears of joy on hearing the name of God. The master looked on him as the embodiment of Narayana. This is what. So these Nitya Siddhas, their spiritual consciousness is awakened. For they are embodiments of God. Okay, feel that. Obviously, when there is something that's uncoiling within you, you will know it. So again, Sri Ramakrishna, observing Bhavanath's yearning for God, the master said to a devotee Maharaj, "Ah, what an exalted state he is in. He has hardly begun to sing about God before his eyes fill with tears." So here we have been singing ourselves hoarse, and not a tear comes in our eyes. Sri Ramakrishna, in one place, he says, excuse me, what's the cause of bhakti? Why should this spiritual consciousness be awakened in young boys like Bhavanath? He kept quiet. So he said, so the master clarifies, all people may look alike from outside, but some of them have, in his homely style, Sri Ramakrishna, fillings of condensed milk. He says, cakes may have fillings of condensed milk or powdered black gram, that is chickpea pulses. But they all look alike from the outside. The desire to know God, ecstatic love for Him, and such other spiritual qualities are the condensed milk. So here we have externally these souls, they kind of live on two planes. One is Sri Ramakrishna on the material plane. They live their life like this, and this is what it is about. He's born and this and that. There's another plane. There's a plane of yoga that they live in, and these people transit back and forth. For many people, people like us, to get into that state is difficult, and then to come down again, we come down very easily. There's no problem because you're down. But for these souls, so it is very difficult to encapsulate their yoga life or their life of a higher spiritual consciousness. So it's only through this kind of thing. Oh, they are like cakes, and inside the fillings are like condensed milk. It's weird, sweet inside. Or they are like Narayana. So here it is. Amazing. Again, Sri Ramakrishna. And you see Sri Ramakrishna saying these things. What Sri Ramakrishna says is truth. He sees it and he doesn't go to the process of observation and assuming things and all these things. He sees things directly. So he's saying, Bhavanath and Narendra, both of them belong to the realm of the formless reality. So here it is. And Swami Sharadananda says about his character, he was humble, modest, simple. He had great faith and devotion. And this was Bhavanath. Bhavanath also, as I say, as he was growing up, he was engaged in this kind of philanthropic work, sitting down with boys of his age, discussing, talking here, and coming out here and getting this inspiration from Sri Ramakrishna. He, as we mentioned, he was also a good singer, and Sri Ramakrishna used to go into samadhi when listening to him. Excuse me. one of those things. We have Bhavanath one time. Sri Ramakrishna, he was very clear about what's the core of religious life. So Swamiji one time, Narendra, see, Bhavanath now, he's in that tremendous state of renunciation. It's actually a natural process. The more you grow spiritually, if you're growing spiritually, you will start detaching yourself from everything. It becomes natural. It's not something that you calculate. And so he had things like, in India we have the people eat pan, beetle rolls, beetle leaves and with spices rolled inside, and that is chewed after post lunch. He has given up eating pan, beetle leaf, and even fish. So Sri Ramakrishna, so I said, why? So what's the matter with fish and beetle leaf? They aren't harmful. Then he says, the renunciation of lust and greed is true renunciation. Now he says. And after that, of course, we don't know whether Bhavanath continued with that. But Bhavanath felt intense renunciation, and he spent his days and nights in Dakshineshwar. We'll stop here for today. Tomorrow is Karma Yoga at a retreat. We also have on Sunday the significance of temples here at 10 a.m. If there are any questions, so we can continue this next Friday. What's a difference between, if Bhavanath was a Nitya Siddha, is that like Ishvara Koti? Why didn't he become a monk? Oh well, Nitya Siddhas are ever perfect, but Ishvara Kotis are a class separate from them. I mean, they are eternally perfect, yet they do not belong wholly to this. They have a class by themselves. And why did he? So Ishvara Koti, that is, Ishvara Koti is God-like. So these are people born with tremendous powers. Tremendous. They can awaken the world with their spirituality. So these are Ishvara Kotis. So he's saying, if Bhavanath was a Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect, is that like an Ishvara Koti? No. So like I said, they are and yet they are not. The Ishvara Kotis are a class of their own. Why didn't he become a monk? These things are not very important, because one of the Ishvara Kotis, Sri Ramakrishna's, became a householder. We've seen it in his life, in one of his lives. So these are conventions, social conventions, but it's not very important. Like I said, their spirituality is so great that nothing can stop them from being absorbed in God, whether they are a monk or a householder. What is the difference between a Nitya Siddha and I have just mentioned? Sri Ramakrishna had six disciples, and they were listed as ever perfect Narendra Rakal. Prabhuram. Yeah. Purna Chandra Ghosh. So, as I said, as I've been explaining, Purna Chandra Ghosh was not a Ishvara Koti, he was a Nitya Siddha. So, Sri Ramakrishna used to call Ishvara Kotis also these godlike souls, also as ever perfect. But as I said, there is a distinction between these ever perfect souls and these ever perfect godlike souls. So, have anything? Yeah. We can take some questions up later. Okay. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.